Hi everyone. Okay, sorry I can't be there today, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about adding fractions with unlike denominators. We cannot add fractions if they have different denominators. Remember, top number is called the numerator, bottom number is called the denominator. In order for us to add fractions with different denominators, we have to change the denominator so that they are the same. And we're going to be using the identity property of 1. Okay, if we have a fraction that looks like 2 out of 2, it is the same thing as 1 whole. Because if I have a rectangle and I cut it into 2 parts and I shade in all 2, I have shaded in one entire shape, right? So I have shaded 1 whole. If I have a different fraction, 4 out of 4, it still equals 1. Why? I have 4 equal parts, right, which is my denominator, and I've shaded in all 4 parts. So I've shaded in 1 whole. Again, 10 out of 10, right? I have 10 parts. I've shaded in all 10 parts. I've shaded in 1 whole. So in essence, I can have any fraction, any number. I can have 35 out of 35. That's still going to equal 1. So whenever you see a fraction, right, that has the same numerator and the same denominator, it is always equal to 1 because you're basically shading in 1 whole. Okay, keeping that in mind, when we add fractions, there's 2 ways to do it, but today we're going to be using the easier method. Oops. So what we're going to do is you are going to multiply the denominators together. Okay, so step 1 is multiply the denominators. Okay, so 2 times 5 is 10. Now, 10 is going to become my new denominator. Now, how do I get there? How does my 2 become a 10? We have to multiply. Think of a number. 2 times what number makes 10? 2 times 5 equals 10, right? We're basically taking the other denominator. Now, if I'm going to change the 2 into a 10, I'm going to multiply it by 5. And I'm going to use the identity property of 1. I'm going to multiply 1/2 by 5 over 5. Okay, because 2 times 5 is 10. That's what I want to get to. What is 5 over 5? I'm not really changing this fraction because 5 out of 5 is 1 whole, right? This still equals number 1. So if I'm multiplying 1 times 1/2, it's still 1/2. Okay, so I'm just breaking this half apart into smaller pieces is all I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to multiply 5 times 5, which is equivalent to 1, right, by half. So I'm going to multiply straight across. 5 times 1 for my numerator becomes 5. 5 times 2 is 10. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to figure out what number times 5 makes 10. Well, obviously it's the other denominator, right? It's 2. 5 times 2 makes 10. So I'm going to use the identity property, and I'm going to multiply this fraction by 2 out of 2, which again, 2 out of 2 is the same thing as 1. So 3/5 times 1 is still 3/5. I'm just breaking it apart into smaller pieces. And now I'm going to multiply straight across. 3 times 2 is 6. 5 times 2 is 10. Now I've created equivalent fractions. They both have the same denominator. So therefore, I can now easily solve this by adding straight across. So my denominator stays the same, and I'm adding my tenths, right? Or my numerator, excuse me. So 5 plus 6 is 11. Okay, so my answer is 11 tenths. Now I need to reduce this because this is an improper fraction. The numerator is larger than the denominator. So I need to divide 10 into the 11. 10 goes into 11 one whole time. What is remaining? 1, right? 11 minus 10 is 1. So 1 is remaining out of the tenths. Okay, so final answer is 1 and 1/10. Okay, all right, guys. See you on Monday.